Trey Lance and Jim Harbaugh are coming to the Bay Area to take on Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. Sometimes it all feels scripted. Calls for a video from Candlestick Park seats at Kezar Stadium, the original home of the 49ers, featuring seats that saw Jim Harbaugh coach the 49ers at Candlestick from 2011 to 2013. It all seems to come full circle. We just don't expect it during week 3 of the preseason. But we get an early treat this time. I was reminded of this when I saw a video following the Rams-Chargers game of Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, the two former 49ers quarterbacks, shaking hands, chatting about the past. Well, the 49ers get to play both of these guys this year. Jimmy Garoppolo might be starting for the Rams Week 5 when the 49ers head down to SoFi Stadium. Obviously, that's quite a ways away, but we can talk about Lance and Harbaugh visiting Levi's Stadium now. In fact, I think it's extra relevant because Jim Harbaugh coached Jake Moody at Michigan. And Matt Barrows and I had a chance to ask Jim Harbaugh about Jake Moody over the course of the owners' meetings in West Palm Beach this offseason. And it's funny because what Jim Harbaugh said might turn out to be prophetic.
What I know of Jake Moody, he's just like a very, very steady, confident, player in his ability. And I've seen him miss a few and then come back and make 14, 17 straight. I can't remember exactly what it was. So I would think that it's going to repeat itself.
Some misses followed by long stretches of field goal kicking success. 49ers can only hope that the pattern repeats itself with Jake Moody. All I know is that what happened in Las Vegas with the 59-yard game winner, with the 44-yard field goal just about a minute before that to tie the game, that was impressive stuff from Jake Moody and maybe the confidence booster that he's going to need. Speaking of confidence boosters, it did seem at the Hall of Fame game, the preseason debut for Trey Lance, that Jim Harbaugh had injected him with a healthy dose of confidence, the same way that he helped turn around Alex Smith's career back in 2011. That moment from Jim Harbaugh when he was patting Trey Lance on the shoulder pads ahead of that game reminded me of him doing the same thing before every Alex Smith start in 2011. There's going to be a lot of terrible takes over the course of this week regarding Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. I think that we're in a position now where it should be relatively easy to plow through them, but they're still going to be really, really annoying. The facts are still the facts. Brock Purdy is a much better quarterback than Trey Lance, and the 49ers are very fortunate to have drafted him at pick number 262 the year after they spent pick number 3 on Trey. It's almost insane to realize how lucky the 49ers got to obtain a quarterback as good as Brock Purdy the year after such a string of bad luck regarding Trey Lance. And that string of bad luck is something that probably should be discussed more because there's been such a misinterpretation and just misinformation regarding Trey's time with the 49ers. He broke his finger in 2021 training camp. Trey was really impressing the 49ers after he'd been drafted out of North Dakota State in April of 21. Obviously, they didn't think that he was going to start right away because he was coming from a small school and he had limited experience. But they thought they could mix him in a creative dual quarterback package with Jimmy Garoppolo. In fact, we even saw the 49ers trying to run that at practice and in a game, the very game where Trey Lance broke his finger. It happened to be a preseason game against the Raiders, and his finger hit Kerry Hyder Jr.'s helmet. And that led to a fracture. That led to Trey Lance seeing his throwing motion screwed up over the course of the entire 2021 season, and the developmental plan was stopped in its tracks. By 2022, the 49ers realized they had to start Trey because they invested so much in him. So that was the plan. They gave him off-season reps. They gave him all the training camp reps. Jimmy Garoppolo was doing that weird thing off on the side, throwing the football to himself. He didn't expect to be on the team, but they couldn't find a trade partner for Jimmy Garoppolo because he was coming off of shoulder surgery. They also couldn't find a comfortable rhythm with Trey Lance over the first 2 weeks offensively because he was behind schedule as a thrower, likely because of the finger injury that derailed 2021. So to succeed with Trey Lance, with a ready-made team, Kyle Shanahan felt that he had to run the ball very often. Problem was that Trey wasn't quite as fast as the 49ers thought. Maybe the whole COVID era evaluation where they couldn't see him perform at an NFL combine-like setting really hurt the 49ers when it came to projecting how Trey Lance would perform as a dual-threat quarterback in their system. Anyway, he couldn't hit the edge with the speed that he had, and the 49ers had to run him on all kinds of different concepts, and he got hurt against the Seattle Seahawks. It happens in the NFL. It was the second straight fracture, this one of Trey Lance's ankle, but 2 straight fractures in 2 years. Immediately, for a quarterback who was so raw, such an unfinished product, 2 years went down the drain. And he was already on a team that was ready-made to win around him. The 49ers couldn't deal with that. The 49ers needed an alternative. One was standing on their side practice field, throwing the football to himself. That was Jimmy Garoppolo. He took over the offense in 2022. He saw a lot of success after taking over the offense, but he too got hurt. That's where the insanely good luck for the 49ers came in. Brock Purdy was already on the roster as pick number 262. He took over for Jimmy Garoppolo, and the rest was history. History that they're going to write about for a long time, because this is one of the great stories in NFL history. Now stuff is going to come full circle with Trey Lance, the backup for the Chargers, coming back to Levi's Stadium. Brock Purdy's probably going to get some time for the 49ers as they run their dress rehearsal on Saturday. And it all intertwines with the Harbaugh era. I mean, we can't forget how memorable that was for the 49ers. You know, one of the debates right now centers on, is Jim Harbaugh or Kyle Shanahan a better QB guy? I think they're both really good QB guys. Both have an excellent track record of working with quarterbacks in the NFL. And Harbaugh, well, you go back to Andrew Luck, even Tavita Pritchard at Stanford outperformed expectations. If you've ever heard of the biggest upset ever over USC in 2007, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But there was Luck, there was Josh Johnson at the University of San Diego before that, then there was Alex Smith, then there was Colin Kaepernick. I mean, Jim Harbaugh has done well for himself when it comes to working with quarterbacks at the NFL level. But so was Kyle Shanahan. Got Jimmy Garoppolo's best football out of him. 2017, remember that? I mean, even after the ACL tear, Jimmy Garoppolo was delivering high performance efficiency marks in the NFL. Now we see the magic worked with Brock Purdy. Unfortunately, injuries never made it possible for Trey Lance to achieve his potential with the 49ers, but now Jim Harbaugh's giving it a try. He needs as many reps as possible. So far, Lance has played this preseason. He's looked okay. People are going to take things to extreme exaggerations on social media because that's what social media is all about, but he's only averaging 6 yards per attempt, which isn't good. That ranked number 36 out of 36 qualifying quarterbacks in the NFL last season. That being said, there have been some nice passes from Trey, and his debut in the Hall of Fame game was particularly sharp, running that very familiar Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, play action, heavy run-based style offense. He's thrown a nice deep ball over the course of this preseason as well, and he'll have a chance to showcase it in front of 49ers fans on Saturday at Levi's Stadium. Trey Lance still has a real opportunity to make this a true feel-good story. He's only 25 years old. So I'm excited for this Saturday at Levi's Stadium because it is a chance for a little closure following that trade in 2023. It's a chance to see Jim Harbaugh again. It's a chance to reminisce on the past, and it's a chance to realize that sometimes NFL stories take wild, wild turns, as they have with the 49ers, with Lance, with Harbaugh, with Shanahan. Everything ends up intertwined in this crazy league that gives us entertainment year after year. But from 2011 to 2013, can't forget what these seats saw. Harbaugh in 2011 leading the 49ers from perpetual mediocrity, maybe even something worse than that, to a 13-3 record. Unfortunately, these seats, even though they saw one of the most epic games in Candlestick Park history when the 49ers beat the Saints, Also saw that NFC Championship game loss to the New York Giants. In 2012, they saw the 49ers go on a Super Bowl run under Jim Harbaugh. Thankfully, these seats were not at the New Orleans Superdome because they would not have liked what they would have seen there. Then in 2013, these seats went through their final NFL season. And I was actually sitting in one of them. Maybe it was this one, who knows, for the final game ever at Candlestick Park. That's when the Falcons were driving for what looked like it'd be the game-winning score. The whole place was nervous. The whole place was tense. It was eerily quiet in Candlestick Park on its final night, December 23rd, 2023. But then the ball tipped up into the air. Navarro Bowman grabbed it, and he sprinted down the sideline. It wasn't on this field. This field, the Kezar Stadium field, is famous for the wrong way run. That happened against the Minnesota Vikings way back when. But it was a epic sprint nonetheless. It was Navarro Bowman being chased by Jim Harbaugh down the sideline of Candlestick all the way into the end zone to close out one of the most iconic runs of any stadium in professional sports history. To this day, no NFL stadium has hosted more playoff games than Candlestick Park. So I love these seats, and I think 49ers fans should love the memories that Jim Harbaugh brought them. Now they're going to get to see Jim Harbaugh coaching up Trey Lance at the new venue. It's already over 10 years old, but it is the new venue compared to the two that I photographed today. Levi Stadium will host the 49ers and the Chargers on Saturday.